Hi guys, I'm Heidi Rocky of Rocky's Red Resources, and today I'm going to talk to you about using technology for math. Normally when we use technology in our teaching, it's in the humanities, reading, writing, research for science and social studies, but it's very rare to see a lot of lessons out there for using technology when teaching math. So why should we do it if it's not something we're normally doing? First of all, math needs love too. We need to tell our students that math is important, and it's as important as your reading and writing. Technology increases engagement in whatever we do. I already have third graders telling me math's too hard, I'm no good at math. We need to increase that engagement. And I'll tell you, some of those same third graders, you put them on the computer with math and they love it, and it's not hard anymore, and they can do it, and so it's a big deal. Second of all, our math tests are online. We don't put a student on Park essay form and ask them to write an essay and they've never typed before. It's a big deal. But we do put our students in Park and ask them to explain their thinking and draw out things in that drawing toolbox, and a lot of them have never used a drawing toolbox before unless they took Park the year before, and that's the only time they use it. That's not a fair assessment. We need to give our students time to express their thinking mathematically. We need them to practice using those toolboxes and those drawing boxes, and we need them to do it online on a regular basis so it's not a big deal. And finally, technology thinking and mathematical thinking are very parallel. They both work through, I tried this, it didn't work, let me try something else, and come back around to it. And, you know, we do it with troubleshooting when you have your computer's not working. What do we do? Well, this is what we've already done. This is what I think is wrong. This is how I'm going to fix it. That's problem solving. When you do coding, you know, you write out this whole big long code and the whole thing doesn't work and you realize, oh, I missed this semicolon here. I missed this period here. Well, it's the same thing if you're working through a math equation. If you miss one operation or one sign, it's going to mess you up. So getting them to understand those parallels is a big piece of getting them working on the technology and working with the math together. Today's presentation is going to be using the SAMR model. So if you haven't used it, it's a very big part of technology. Talks about going from a lower level skill where we're just using technology as a substitute all the way up to redefining what we do based on the technology we have. I do challenge teachers to try to use a little bit of each every day. There's no reason that we need to be in redefinition every single day. But you don't want to be stuck in substitution and never get any past there. So you really want to be able to do a little bit of both, and really working with technology and using it as a step up and using it to make your life easier. So we're going to work through the 4 levels and how that would look using math. So starting with substitution. Substitution can be as easy as using Math Magician or Some Dogs or something along those lines in place of flashcards. It's a huge time saver if you do not have to pass out 25 quick quizzes. Give them the 1 minute to take the quiz, collect the 25 quick quizzes, and grade them all out. Your 1 minute quiz all of a sudden is now a 15-minute activity. Whereas if you can get them all into the computer lab and take 5 minutes, you now have them getting on that website, and hopefully, especially once they get used to getting on the website, they can do that same activity 3 or 4 times in the 5 minutes, and you can get a grade off of it. Super easy, super simple way to substitute. I allow my students to use Google to find definitions or pictures for math vocabulary words way quicker. Not that I don't teach dictionary skills, it's just way quicker. If we're trying to do a project, for them to be able to go and Google, oh, that's what parallel lines look like, okay, I'm good. We do answering problems of the day or exit tickets using a Google Doc, or even better, a Google form. And the Google form, while it's multiple choice, it grades it for me, and come on, that makes my life easier, makes it quicker for the kids, and it's not everything that I do, so it's not a big deal if I'm using it now and then. Using online math games, things that don't require a login, are also a substitution because it takes the place of those math centers. You know, the things where you make it all and then you cut it out and then you laminate it and then you cut it out again and you put it in all these little folders and then the kids lose half the pieces. We can do the exact same thing with these math games. You don't have to do any of the work. It's getting them a lot more engaged. They're practicing those skills. All of that is substitution. And then PDFs, students having access to your books, your ebooks, anything along those lines. I use Google Classroom. They can be uploaded in there. They can be uploaded into Edmodo. It saves me paper. And when I'm working in a school where you're not always allowed to print everything that you need to, and it's a cost-saving benefit, it makes sense. But it's still, oh my goodness, how am I going to get this access to my students? Giving them that PDF version, letting them fill it out on loose leaf paper or in their notebook. It makes life easier for you and for them, and it saves you paper, so your admin likes you better too. Okay, the next step up from substitution is augmentation. So in substitution, anything that was on there we could technically do without technology. We're just saving ourselves or our students some time or some energy. With augmentation, it takes it a step up, and it makes it a bit easier. So in Google Docs, being able to use the drawing tool, again, goes back to that part, justifying their answers, working through, that's a bit of a step up. And yes, they can draw it out, but you're not prepping them in the same way. Also, a student who has a hard time drawing a circle or a square that actually looks like a square can insert a shape, and voila, they have that shape, and it looks a lot better and a lot easier for them to justify their answers. Also, if you do have access to Google Docs, letting them work collaboratively is a huge piece, because if you have centers going on, they can either, 2, 3 different kids working in the same document, or if you've got 3 kids in your group and they come to the center rotation at a different time, they can each continue to add to it and work with each other, and that's a huge benefit. Khan Academy, if you have never used it, is amazing. They have videos, they have activities that go with the videos, and it teaches through every single lesson, every single standard for Common Core. It's great. I use it in my center rotation, so the students go to there, they get a lesson, they come to me, they get a lesson, they work in a project-based or a game, depending on the technology I have in my classroom at the time, and then they work in through, some word problems or some worksheets, that sort of thing. And they're getting all of these different types of skills, but they're also getting 2 lessons at once. That's a huge piece for me. It allows me to do so much more with my students. I use Prodigy and Zern as practice skills, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about iStation and iExcel along with them. So all 4 of those are websites where the students are practicing games. Again, it takes the place of your center, but now it's differentiated. Prodigy and Zern can be assigned by you that you need these students working on this skill. iStation and iExcel. iExcel you can assign as well, but those 2 are more of the student takes a test, it tells them these are the skills you need to work on, and it puts them there. Either way, the kids are working on what they need to work on, even if it's not what their classmates need to work on. So you have that differentiation piece built in without all the color-coded folders that you hope that they pull the right folder because you're trying to teach a small group. It's there. It's done for you. That makes life so much easier. And then my absolute favorite way to use augmentation is collaborative slideshows. And so I'm a big Google, I'm a Google Classroom person. So I create a Google document, and I put my favorite easy way is put problem of the day, and then duplicate, duplicate, duplicate slides. The students go in, and they go to their slide that coordinates with the number that they have in the classroom. So if you're number 16 in the classroom, you go to slide 16. You read the problem. We work on highlighting, coloring, the keywords, all of that, and then they work out the problem. They have to have a sentence that justifies their answer. They're working on typing out an equation, and they're using the drawings and the shapes. So they're working on all those skills I need them to work on to be used to using technology and math. But in addition, they can go to each other's slides because everyone's in the same slideshow, and they can see how somebody else is getting there. So if they're stuck, they're helping each other, and I'm not even having to get in there. And let's face it, guys, kids learn better from each other and from each other's thinking than they do from us, no matter what we do. So this is a great way for them to do that without having to run around the room, persuade this friend to help them with that or that sort of thing. It's just much more streamlined. I love it. I've got a whole blog post on collaborative slideshows. If you're interested, you should stop by my blog. Modification is that next step up. It's things that you could do without technology, but it's a lot of work. And so they became projects that we rarely did because it's a lot of work. The biggest one is that, you give your kids a piece of paper and you say, okay, go around and ask all of your friends what's their favorite color. And they all go around and your whole room erupts with noise. And then they have to create graphs with those, and it's not quite perfect because they don't draw perfect straight lines. Okay, now let's take that data, that exact same data collection. They use a Google form. They share it out in your Google Classroom. Their friends go in and quietly answer all of those questions, and then they use that data to create a graph in Google Sheets, creating exact data. And then you're focusing now in on the questions, the higher level thinking, that next step, rather than all of the noise and chaos that comes from making graphs with data that our friends have. Google Drawings can be used to create flowcharts. This is how we solve a multiplication problem. We can work collaboratively. We can do virtual shopping trips. We can go to Amazon and say, okay, how much is that onion going to cost me, or that bag of chocolate chips? I can take a screenshot of it. I know the exact price. I can put it in a slideshow. I can show you how I rounded it, how I budgeted it. There's so much that you can do with virtual shopping trips. Research math properties. We do tons of math properties, distributive, commutative, all of that. How about actually going out, researching it, creating a slideshow to help you understand it and help your friends understand it? And then also, can you be the teacher? Can you create a slideshow with math problems and have your friends work through it? All of those little pieces that just take you a step up. And yes, we can do these things without technology, but it takes a lot more time and it takes a lot more effort. And this makes it simpler and more accessible to our kids. The final step is called reinvention, and it's those things where you really couldn't do it without using technology. You would need the technology in order to do these things, and it really gets into project-based learning. My absolute favorite is to allow students to create their own math videos, think Khan Academy videos, to teach other students about a topic. I love Powtoon, Screencast-O-Matic works, I Explain. I'll have all this linked out for you guys. But letting them go in and actually create a video, the thinking that goes on, the planning, the math, the presentation, it's so much all together, and it's so engaging for the kids. And then I take those videos and I use them for other students. Oh, you're struggling with multiplication. So-and-so made a great video about that. Why don't you go and watch it? And the kids, because they know other kids are going to watch it, put so much effort into them. It's amazing. The same thing, they can create a math video game using Tinker, using Scratch, and go in and let their friends actually play the math game. That's huge. You've got those kids that want to be YouTubers. We've got kids that want to be programmers. This is going to hook them. They can create their own website. I love to do website portfolios, and we generally think of them for writing samples, but how about all of these math problems that they've been solving and saving for you in Google Doc? They can put that into LiveBlender or Weebly or a Google site. Collecting data. I already talked about collecting data from our own classroom. Well, what about collecting data from your pen pals? What about collecting data from your book buddies? What about collecting data from some random class in another part of the world? Putting, those forms out or emailing it to the whole fourth grade and asking their kids to go in and answer all of those questions. Then your students create the graphs using Google Sheets, and they can share it back out onto a Google site. It's a full circle, and it gets you into bigger numbers, so you can have 100 data points or 200 data points and really look at things. It's huge, and the kids feel connected. Finally, my favorite way to use reinvention, that's coding without actually being coding, is to let them go into a Google sheet or an Excel sheet and create a formula. If you're doing area of a rectangle, can they create a formula so that somebody can put in the side lengths and it'll automatically pop out their area? That's coding, but they don't realize it's coding, and they don't have to use C++ or even Scratch or any of that stuff, and they're thinking about how to make the computer work for them. Let them balance a checkbook. Let them come up with a total. All of those pieces are huge. So I hope that you've gotten something from this video that you can take and use in your classroom. I challenge you to find something that you can do this next school year where you use math and technology together at least once a week. If you have one-to-one in your classroom, at least once a day. The kids need to be using technology with their math. Have a great day, and please feel free to visit my blog at rockysredresources.com.